Is a college degree really worth it? I mean, it's something that we're told all through our lives while we're growing up. It's something that's always being pushed on us from an early age. I mean, for most of our childhoods, we're in school. And when we turn 18 and finish high school, it only makes sense, right? I mean, you've only been in school. You went from elementary school to junior high to high school, and the next logical step is college, right? And just keep going to school. I mean, after all, it's all we've ever known and done for the most part. Things revolved around school and that all-important summer vacation. So you get to your senior year of high school and you start applying for different colleges. But after it's all said and done, is a college degree really worth it? That's something we're going to dive into today. Hey guys, thanks for checking out the My Career Path podcast. I hope you enjoy the show, and I hope if this is your first time seeing a video, that you find it valuable and informative. My name is Colt Volek, and I am happy to be here with you. As you can see, I've got a somewhat new setup. I've got a green screen. It's what I got for Christmas this last year, and I'm going to be trying some different things out. I don't know exactly how to use a green screen, but I'm sure over time it'll just happen naturally. Of course, before we dive into today's topic, make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that like button as well if you find yourself coming back on the regular. And let me know if you have a college degree and if it's affected your life in any way. I'd love to read that down below in the comments. So, of course, if we're going to determine whether college is worth it, we kind of have to decide what worth actually means. And math was one of my strongest suits growing up, especially in high school and even a little bit into college. So I wanted to define a basic formula to hopefully help figure out if it's worth it or not. Essentially, college for me was, is the time invested going to return a greater increase overall than the cost of overall college? I mean, tuition is expensive. It has only gone up since the last, 30, 40 years. And so naturally, are you going to take that cost, or is it going to pay off in the long run? So how does the time spent earning a degree compare to the financial return on the investment over a lifetime? And I do need to preface this by sharing that college and universities are primarily the ones who perform the research, so there may be a bit of bias. So take that for what you will, take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, because ultimately colleges and universities are the ones that are doing these studies, and it would incentivize them to basically say, yes, of course it's worth it, to get more people to enroll. So take that for what you will, but I do think there are a couple of key things that we can take away from this, which I'll get into later. So research shows that on average, college graduates with a bachelor's degree earn more than those with a high school diploma. Over the course of their life, bachelor degree holders earn about $2.8 million compared to the $1.6 million over a high school diploma. However, the salary gap varies widely by field. For example, degrees in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics often yield higher paying jobs, while liberal art degrees may not offer the same financial payoff. But plugging this into our little formula, if you took 4 years to graduate with a bachelor's degree by the age of 24, then over the next 38 years, because average retirement in the US is about 62 years of age, it would account for about a $32,000 income increase every year. And I would say that's a fairly good investment. I mean, if you look at that, you're earning $1.2 million over about 40 years, which I would say, who wouldn't want that? Right? Well, there's another factor to consider, and that is the actual cost of college. College isn't exactly free, as anyone who's gone to college will probably tell you. There's the cost of tuition, and that varies heavily dependent on what school you go to, in-state versus out-of-state. Then you have housing, books. Holy cow. Why do college books cost so much? Honestly, I mean, why do I have to drop $200 for an accounting book that is, 15 years old and is the only one that's available? Food, gas, etc. You have all the normal commodities of life. And according to educationdata.org, the average cost of college in the US is about $38,270 per year. So multiply that by 4 years, as long as you know what to study and don't change your degrees midway through, like many people do, and pass all your classes on the first go, that equates to $153,000 for your bachelor's degree. Now, the actual cost of college will vary heavily dependent on where you go and what school you choose to attend, as well as scholarships, financial aid, and which school you end up going to. And if you're working through part-time, you can kind of lessen that a little bit. It is a pretty heavy cost up front, but you can decide whether it's worth it for that extra $32,000 a year over the course of the next 40 years. I think most people look at that and see that increase and decide, yes, it is worth it for the upfront cost. And I think you can kind of make that decision for yourself. And from the Pew Research Center, they have this little graphic where only about 22% of US adults say that the cost of college is worth it, even if someone has to take out loans. 47% say it's worth it, but only without taking out student loans. 29% say it's not worth it at all. So a lot of people are kind of divided on this issue on whether it is worth it or not, and ultimately you get to determine whether it is for yourself. But there's some key things that you need to decide. So you can decide on whether that $32,000 increase is enough and worth that big $153,000 investment. And there's one thing I want to make clear. I am a huge advocate for lifelong learning. I think education is very important in whatever field you are in, and continuing to learn and understand a given field is going to benefit your life tremendously. But it doesn't always have to come with a degree. So let's dive into some key factors to consider when deciding on whether or not college is actually worth it for you. The first thing is, of course, student loan debt, which can end up following graduates for decades. And it impacts their ability to buy homes, start businesses, and even save for retirement. You need to ask yourself, are there viable ways to minimize or avoid loans altogether, such as scholarships, grants, or attending a community college first? Determine if there are any in-state colleges that you can attend which have a degree you want to pursue, and see what scholarships you qualify for and which ones you can actually receive. A lot of schools have on their website a scholarship program that you can start applying for, whether it's an essay competition, some kind of project, a video send in. There are tons and tons of opportunities out there that people are willing to donate and give out scholarships to help you pursue your dream and get that bachelor's degree. There's also a link in the description for a link to some scholarships that you can apply for, and it's how to win at scholarships. It actually goes through some of the things that you can do to make sure that you stand out, make sure that you're chosen, and hopefully receive that financial aid. Check that down in the description below. And like I said, most universities, you can just type in scholarships on their website and see what opportunities are available. And there's a lot of little ones, like $200 to $500 range, that you can just write a 3-page essay for and hopefully get. And you can do that over and over and over again to make that impact of that $153,000 investment much less on your financial life. In my personal opinion, I think the cost of college is really expensive and can be very difficult for a lot of people. And loans aren't the best option because they can follow you throughout your life. There's a ton of extra fees that are attached to them, and you can be making monthly payments year after year. But if you're only making the minimum payments, the principal very seldom goes down because of the way these things are structured. So finding ways that you can get essentially free money for writing essays or submitting videos or whatever can be a huge help for you to actually help pay for college and make it much less of a problem throughout your life, and it'll pay off much sooner. So like I said earlier, the cost can actually vary dramatically depending on whether you're attending an in-state or an out-of-state institution. So make sure to research the cost difference and consider the higher price of an out-of-state tuition. And consider if the higher price of the out-of-state tuition actually provides additional benefits, such as like unique programs or some kind of better networking opportunities. Often for a bachelor's degree, it doesn't really matter where you go as long as you have that degree. Nobody has really asked me about my international business degree, where I got it from, which professors I learned from. They care little about where you got your education and much more about whether you actually learned something or not. Choosing an in-state college saves you a ton of cash up front and down the road, especially if you could possibly live at home or hopefully close to home. And down the road, as long as you do well in your classes, you can more easily move to those institutions that have much more specialized field at a particular university, and it can be much easier to afford after you have your bachelor's degree and are actually working in the field. It can be much easier to get in, and you can maybe even find an employer who'd be willing to pay for you to go back to school, like getting a master's degree or a certain certificate in a given field. So for many families, this increase makes college a really big financial strain. And the question of whether a college degree is worth it depends largely on the circumstances of you and your life. Or maybe find ways to minimize that financial burden for you, like applying for scholarships, getting good grades, going to a school that'll just maybe give you a free ride, like my wife got from Utah State. As long as you do well and are, somewhat of a smart kid and can apply for those scholarships and get them, it can lessen that financial burden on you and your family. And I know for a lot of people, student loans are kind of the solution. You don't have to pay for it up front. A lot of that can just be kind of kicked down the road and you don't have to deal with it right now. As of June 2024, Americans collectively owe 1.6 trillion, yes, trillion, in student loan debt, according to the Pew Research Center. And the median borrower owes between $20,000 and $25,000. And if you decide to pursue a degree, my advice is to approach this decision strategically. Can you work part-time during school to cover some housing and tuition and hopefully lessen that cost? Are you making the most of your education by truly learning, or are you just trying to earn a passing grade? These habits not only reduce financial stress, but also ensure you're gaining value from the experience. Also, make sure to take advantage of the networking opportunities that are available at colleges. Get to know your professors, get to know people in these fields, and hopefully find those gateways into the working world. People are much more likely to hire you and get you on their team if they already know you and know that you're actually passionate about what you're looking for. Finding someone in a field does wonders for you down the road. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't take advantage of in college. There's a lot of programs, professors, opportunities available to you that cost you nothing just to show up, shake some hands, meet people, and introduce yourself. It's something that can do wonders for you in your life and on your career path. Another really common concern is about whether people end up actually working in jobs that require their degree or in their field of study. Research indicates that many graduates work in roles that don't directly require their degree, raising questions about whether or not this investment actually aligns with the career outcome. Understanding this alignment between these degree programs and the actual job market can help gauge whether a degree is truly necessary for specific professions. And there are plenty of jobs and professions out there that you need a specific degree or requirement. Take law or medicine, being a doctor. These things kind of require you to have a degree. You have to have certain certification from the state in order to actually practice in that given field. So this is something that I've seen in different people over different interviews on this show. Many of them received a bachelor's degree and even a master's degree, but then over time have kind of shifted into newer roles, whether it's starting their own business, finding a different business that they wanted to work for, or even getting out of their field and going into something else entirely. So having the degree didn't necessarily really benefit them all that much, but it opened the door to a whole bunch of different opportunities down the road. It shows potential employers that you are a capable individual and that you actually can see things through to the end. Very few people in the interview process go, "Oh, you have a bachelor's degree, you're perfect, get in here." They care a lot more about what you're going to bring to the table, how you're going to fit in with the team, and are you capable of learning and solving different problems on the fly and figuring out how to best profit their business or company. A lot of people care more about who you are, and seeing that you have a degree can help you get in the door into that interview stage, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the be all end all. And I think ultimately, if you want to decide whether college is worth it for you, there's two questions you have to decide. Is college the only way to get the job you want? And is it the most affordable way to get there? I think these two questions kind of break down whether or not it's actually worth it for you if you're still deciding. With the rise of online courses, certifications, and boot camps, there are so many alternatives to traditional college paths. Many of these options are a lot less expensive and a lot shorter, between an 8 to 10 week program, or maybe even an 8 to 10 month program that you can go through for like tech. And many of these fields are actually less expensive and a lot shorter and can get you into that job market a lot quicker. Take technology, for example. The cyber world is exploding with the rise of AI and need for new coders and people being able to actually converse and talk with the machines that we use in our everyday lives. And there's tons of boot camps available to you that you could take a 10 to 12 month program and in the course of a year have about an $80,000 to $100,000 paying job and get right into the work field right after from these accredited universities or programs that are available. Instead of just going through the traditional 4-year college route, some of these can actually be a lot cheaper, and you can also consider trade schools and whatnot, which are ultimately a lot cheaper and get you into the field and going. With everything kind of moving to the tech space and college degrees not really meaning as much as they used to, because let's face it, more people have college degrees now than they ever have before, which means they're a little less rare and special. So if you go into some of these trade schools and become a really good plumber, electrician, contractor, you can end up starting your own business or working for people and doing really, really well because other people are using their computers and whatnot, and they don't know how to fix their sink. They don't know how to remodel a basement. So you can really take advantage of that. And it's something that you're passionate about and good with working with your hands or whatever. I think it's something that you could really, really consider. And ultimately, I think in our society, we kind of look down on people who don't have college degrees, and we really shouldn't. And it was ultimately something I learned from Mike Rowe, the host of Dirty Jobs, and now has his own podcast, The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe. He talked a lot about different people and seeing that college degree isn't the be-all, end-all. There's so many programs and opportunities out there for people who are active and willing and kind of headstrong and willing to go for it, that you can really take advantage of that. And if traditional education and learning isn't for you, there's so many other opportunities out there and options available to you. I'd really encourage you to go listen to his podcast, The Way I Heard It with Mike Rowe. He just does a really good job of explaining that and talking with people about these different opportunities and showing that a college degree isn't really for everyone, and it can be for you, but there's so many other opportunities out there. And even if you look at some of the most successful people, they end up being not college graduates. Sometimes they dropped out of high school and then pursued what they were passionate about, and it just worked out for them. And I think another key point to consider is the benefit of taking a gap year. I think it's something that could really benefit you and kind of help you in the future, because there's a lot of people who go straight from high school into college and they have no idea what they want to study, aka me. I was definitely one of those. Luckily, I just kind of picked a degree and went with it, being in the business world, and I ended up enjoying it, kind of got lucky in that way. But there's a lot of people who kind of decide, hey, this is what I want to be when I grow up, and then they actually get into those classes, into those programs, and realize, this really isn't for me. So you can kind of take a gap year to kind of get into the working world, save some money, so hopefully college isn't as much of a financial burden, and hopefully figure out what you actually like to do. So kind of get into the working world, see what you like and dislike, and hopefully maybe meet some people and talk with people about their careers and what they want to do. People love talking about what they do for work. It's something that we spend a lot of time on as adults. We spend usually about 40 hours a week at our jobs, and sometimes it's the thing we know best. So people are willing to talk with you about the opportunities and the things that they do, and hopefully you can try to get a little bit of a feel for what you want to do, so that down the road you kind of have a better idea of what you want. But also take that for granted. You change over time. Our learning and desires kind of change over time as well. So just because you decide on a college degree and you love it and you do it, and then you start doing it for a while and then realize, you know what, I kind of want to do something else. That's totally fine. You can go after that and you can kind of decide how best to go forward. There's so many opportunities out there, and there's so many people willing to help kind of lead you and guide you and answer your questions as long as you ask them. So my final thoughts on whether a college degree is worth it. I would say the answer is yes, but only if you have a clear path. I would also caveat that with, I don't think it is the only path for every single person out there. There are so many opportunities with YouTube now. Information is so readily available to all of us because we have a smartphone that basically does everything for us. You can learn just about anything you want at any time. You just kind of have to put your mind to do that. So make sure to talk to people in your network, your family, your community, your sports teams, your church members, whatever, about different careers that they are into. Find what you like and what you'd like to learn more about, because that can provide invaluable insights and help you make a really informed decision. And from my conversations with professionals across different industries, I've learned this. A degree can open doors, but it's not the sole factor in landing a job. Employers care much more about your personality, work ethic, on whether you're adaptable or not, and your willingness to learn. They care more about who you are rather than what you know. What you know can help you get in the door, hopefully land that interview, and show that you're capable and knowledgeable individual about a given subject. But ultimately, a college degree isn't the be-all, end-all. A college degree really signals that you can complete a major challenge and really stick with it, but your long-term success depends on what you bring to the table beyond that. The great employees, the ones who truly stand out, go above and beyond by finding ways to improve their company and team, and constantly are striving for growth. In the end, whether college is worth it depends on how you approach the journey and the opportunities you create for yourself. Thanks so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.